bad things from coming into the country. Let me just tell you the top 3 priorities of the department. The first one is keeping bad people out of the country, keeping terrorists who wish to do harm. That leads us down literally dozens of directions of investment, of programmatic work, to look at people, to facilitate commerce and trade, but to make sure that we're focused on the terrorists, focused on the individuals who do not deserve to come into the country without scrutiny. Keeping bad things out of the country is the second of these objectives, and that's what this whole conference is all about. How do we make sure we secure our ports and keep bad things from coming in those containers? And finally, our third biggest priority is protecting our critical infrastructure. This precious asset that you have in this community, which gives life to this community in the port, is one of the nation's precious assets. It's one of the most important engines of our economy. It's your local economy, but it's the country's economy here. And so how do we do this in some systematic and deliberate way? I want to try to just say a little bit about one program that is part of this keeping the port safe. It's the Transportation Worker Identification Card. This is a law that was passed by Congress that requires us to know across the spectrum of our infrastructure who is coming into our ports, who are coming into our airports, who are driving our trucks. And this sort of program is about to kick off here at this port as a first example, as a leading wedge of trying to make this work right. We will not move rashly in this area. We will move with a lot of collaboration and listening to the workers who have to have the cards, to the infrastructure owners who have to manage the system, and to the port owners who have to move and operate these systems and networks to the community at large here. Let me just explain the 2 parts of it. First is the issuance of a biometrically secure card identifying each individual who has unescorted access to the port facilities, to facilities covered under MITSA, the regulatory regime of the Coast Guard. In this way, what we can do is do an appropriate background investigation, not overly burdensome, not unfair, not unreasonable, but solid, to make sure that people are living in the country legally and that they have records that are appropriate for work in this environment. They will then have this card which will have biometrics on it that we can use to manage access to the ports. The first phase of this, which begins as an initiative here and in 2 other ports around the country this spring, is to issue these cards. Initially, what we'll do is set up distribution points. I hope that my friends from the ILWU will invite us to come down to your union hall, to places where it's convenient for you to be, to watch us and help us make this retail distribution part work effectively and efficiently. We will issue cards, and when we get to a stage where there is sufficient penetration, we'll give, under the direction of the captain of the port here, enough time of warning to say at a certain point these will be obligatory for anyone to be in the port. They'll have to have a card for unescorted access. This will then be followed at a second stage down the road, not immediately, and again with some considerable time to make sure that we have the systems with card readers to be able to allow us to check the biometrics as people enter the ports. This will allow us to have this closed-loop system. It'll operate quickly. It'll work fairly. If someone is initially denied the ability to have a card, to have their livelihood, because of a conflict with the statutory requirements for this card, there is an appeals process. There's a reconciliation process, and we will work that very carefully. We've had experience in this in hazardous material licenses for truck drivers, and there's a very, I think, user-friendly way to work through some issues there that allow people to make their case for why they deserve special attention or special review.